Just some trappy beats to
chill.
Bring us into 2021. Welcome to the Hat Chat podcast, episode 46.
God, is it? Yeah.
Well, that's
I'm
great.
Chris Trott.
Today, of course, is David Bowie's birthday.
Who are you?
And so that's why we released the podcast today.
Correct, yeah, we timed it.
Happy birthday,
who are
David. Happy birthday, David. My name's Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not David, but...
You wish it worse. I've already said
My name's
Chris
Ross
Trott.
Hornby.
And that's
He said his name was
Hornby.
Chris Trott, and that was Alex Smith, who is also David Bowie's spiritual being. He's inside you.
I saw a video of David Bowie that's doing the rounds. I think it's been doing the rounds for a week or so, of him having a go at an MTV person in an interview, saying like, why there are not enough black artists on MTV. And he just went, the kind of responses he got from MTV was like, well, we're not sure about, we don't want to scare, certain parts of the country are not ready. We're just fucking spinning this whole.
Just like, don't talk to me. You're not meant to ask me questions like this.
Yeah.
Sounds very...
He was just doing the whole like, okay, I understand your opinion. I don't like it. That's funny.
Jeez.
So David Bowie, happy birthday, R.I.P. He was ahead of his time. Wasn't there another video where he talked about the internet with, what's his face? The English interviewer.
Russell Brand?
No, not Russell Brand.
It wasn't Russell Brand.
It's an old video.
Paxman.
Paxman. Yes.
Paxman, yeah.
And he was doing his classic, like, aren't you scared of this internet? It can't be. It's a joke, right? And stuff like that. And he was like, no, I think it's going to be incredible. Both incredible in a good way, it brings us all together, but also potentially very dangerous as well. So we just got to be careful. And he was just like fucking nail on the head, predicting like the internet and how it's going to bring everyone together, but also for good and for bad. So David Bowie.
I'd like to hope that there were a lot of people who thought the same at the time. That just connecting everyone immediately wouldn't cause some issues down the line.
Well,
we didn't think about it because we were kids at the time. We're kind of just like, oh look, I get to play games with my friends online. Whereas
I guess you don't consider
then you see what it can cause.
To be fair, I think our parents did say at the time, they were like, don't spend all your time on games, don't spend all your time on the internet. You're going to get, abducted by a pervert or, a lot of the other early signs.
Were they concerned? Were your parents concerned about that? I don't even think my parents ever mentioned that. It was more of a case of just like, don't spend too much time gaming and all this other stuff. And it was
Trott was there trying to get me into Habbo Hotel so I could get proper groomed.
That was the good shit.
That where it happened? Is Habbo where it happened?
There were, adults in our lives when we were young saying things like that. The problem is they completely construed like the actual impact of it, and then of course their impact on it once they started using it as well has become, felt, right? Like, oh my god, yesterday I spent about an hour trying to help my nan who wants a new iPad, trying to explain just concepts that are like naturally just part of our culture now in terms of verification, identification, like all the logins and things like that, and resetting passwords and everything. It's a lot.
Did you make her do a two-step?
This is a thing. Like, because my nan was like, she's got a 10-year-old iPad, and she's like, I just want to do a couple of things on it. I want to do my banking on it, and I want to do I want to watch TV shows in bed. And I'm like, yeah, nice, that'd be fine. But then I was like, she's like, so will I just be able to access my bank again on the new iPad? And I'm like, well, I mean, and then immediately I'm like, do you have two-step verification? Do you have a dongle or anything? She's like, no, I've just got it all written down here. And I'm just like, it really highlights, like, I think a lot of this two-step verification and stuff like that and fraud and things, all these protections are there to kind of protect people like her. But the thing is, they don't quite understand the concept of like using it and what it actually does and what it actually is. And so like, all these steps and these passwords and everything, she just writes it all down in a book. So like, it's just like, it kind of just is undone. I mean, like, obviously someone would need to break in and steal the book, I suppose, which is very unlikely. But it just sort of shows this almost futility of like, all these steps of security and all these steps of like complex elements of like, oh, which email address is associated with your Apple ID, Nan, and all this sort of stuff. And it's just like you realize there's this whole world of like tacit understanding that you think people have. And then you start talking to someone who hasn't grown up in that world or hasn't you know, grown up with that technology. And
we're lucky.
It's just like,
because we grew with that complexity. It started off simple, and then they slowly introduced new security measures, and we managed to keep on top of it, I assume, because, you know, when MySpace was around, you didn't have two-step verification. You just had an email and a password, and you kept that password for everything because there wasn't a big scare of, like, passwords being compromised and stuff on a mass scale, at least. And then these things started happening. Measures were taken. We got on top of it because we're on the internet all the time. Whereas, to anyone that hasn't been on the internet or using technology, they're coming in at the deep end, really hardcore. Exactly. But
they're
like
aware of the dangerous stuff they don't have in their sphere.
Yeah, being aware of the dangers at all, or just feeling invincible because you're like, well, it's just one password will do, that'll be fine. And then obviously you never know, like what's capable of people.
And then you're scrabbling to change
account in some way.
That password that you used for all the other services. Yeah. Like, oh, my bank. Oh, no. OnlyFans. Pornhub. Shit. All those good ones. Same password.
All the good ones.
Big Trott 69.
And then they're like, they worry about it. They're like, oh, yeah, I don't want to share my password with you or something like that. They get like this sort of psychosis where they're like, something's going to happen, bad is going to happen if you're using this technology. But then I asked her to send me the front of a credit debit card, and she because I was like, right, I need to place this order for her, so I need your debit card, Nan. The quickest and easiest way to do this would just be for you to send me a photo of your card, right? And then I'll just delete the photo. That took about 20 minutes. I'd like to think
she hung up that immediately and said you were a scammer.
She said, are you a scammer?
You're not
your grandson. They're getting very smart. And I mean, eventually with deepfakes, they probably will. But like... she ended up sending me a photo of the thing that I'd sent her back, and then she sent me a photo of her lap, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to call you and just read out your card number on the phone. So I just wrote it down, and then I burnt the piece of paper I wrote it on, you know? I mean, that's secure. You can't get more secure than that, right? Literally burn after reading.
That's great.
So yeah, I've got through. But it did make me inspired to design an iPad that is just, for old people. Who is it? Oh, this is the Queen deepfake,
which is... this is after Christmas, of course. Merry Christmas.
I didn't see this on TV. This is the first time I'm actually watching this.
Yeah, Channel 4 decided to air an alternative Queen's speech, which was basically where she was deep-faked. And a very kind of... I feel like you can find a decent impressionist for the Queen now, surely. But it didn't sound like the Queen.
No.
But maybe it wasn't supposed to. Maybe it was supposed to be tongue-in-cheek, and that's the whole point.
I mean, it's okay, but I don't know if I've seen too many deepfakes.
This isn't a very good deepfake.
Well,
it looks too...
This is kind of a shit deepfake.
What's that?
I said you watch a lot of deepfake porn, don't you? So you can
tell, I mean, and I've seen some insane ones. Put my favorite celebrities on a porn body, and this doesn't live up to that.
Oh, you didn't put friends and family on them? That's what I tried to do.
No, because the computing time takes too long to get all the cousins and aunties and uncles. It's insane to get them in that whole orgy. But this doesn't really match up to that. There's just something a bit wrong about it, especially when they start. I'll skip through a little bit.
A part of me feels like it wasn't supposed to be polished. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it's kind of like saying that it's rough around the edges, and you can tell, but it still looks pretty presentable to, I don't know, most people.
I guess you could be.
If that was standard definition, you probably wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
Like
but
watching
it's also
blur my eyes.
It's the mannerisms with which they've done this. They've clearly told the actor to like, don't move too much because we don't really know how bad the deepfake's going to be, etc. So don't put anything in front of your face. Just hold it like that. And I think all those tiny mannerisms of like being really stilted kind of break the illusion a little bit. If it was a little bit more organic. I know she doesn't move
very much.
Like
too animated.
This bit, her face just shifts
her face
wrong.
Slightly to the right, up.
Just doesn't look right at all.
It doesn't look right. Yeah, it doesn't track correctly.
And then now she starts dancing and stuff, and it's
people complained about this. So like there were several complaints to Channel 4, of course. They were like, "Oh, this is sacrilege. This is against what the Queen's speech is all about." But like, it's clearly a fucking joke. Like People need to get
it was only a few hundred people
like,
in like the millions that watched it. I think. I mean, it might have changed since, but when I originally saw the article about this, it was about 200 complaints.
Yeah.
But like you say,
exactly.
Who cares? I think everyone appreciates this isn't real.
It's just
even when they get like 10 complaints, they consider that a lot for some reason. I guess that each complaint counts as X amount of people in their mind. So but for something so tongue in cheek, and she didn't exactly say anything horrific.
Nah, it's just like she mentioned like Prince Andrew, right? But as it wasn't even that big a deal. They just mentioned that he's not going to be in the estate for Christmas, etc.
Yeah, wow.
Something like that. But yeah, deepfakes. Also, I was thinking, while you were talking about the detachment from technology and the technophobe, do you think you're going to get to a point in time where the technology's run away from you and the generation below are having to explain to you how this works? Do you think
I think software will. I'm not necessarily sure hardware will. Because I think that if you look at hardware, like hardware does a couple of the same things, you know, like be it like a piece of camera technology where you kind of understand that like at the very least most cameras still work on the concepts of exposure and things like that, right? Like as in that's been the same now for like probably 100 years or whatever. I actually don't know when the first camera was invented, which is why, but you know, I think that like hardware for us kind of will still be able to work it out. It's quite a human thing. I think certain softwares have been developed, like for example TikTok, Snapchat, things like that I already don't understand and already don't want to use because I feel it isn't for me, you know, like as in like I understand why younger people enjoy it, but I also feel like I guess older people have felt when I've talked about things or when I've done things growing up where they're like, I'm not necessarily sure this is a good thing for us, you know, like you know, when your parents when you were growing up probably like, stop playing those bloody games, you know, like stop playing those computer games, stop playing that.
You're starting to see don't everyone stop using Snapchat and TikTok.
Yeah, for me it's like, what the fuck are you people doing on this thing? And like, and that's kind of, and I kind of get that that's kind of, you know, curmudgeon-y and a bit bigoted because like ultimately I find it weird that people go and do dances, like 30-second dances, and put it on the internet for other people to watch. I don't understand why that's weird. There's not really anything wrong with dancing. It's like one of the oldest expressions of like happiness in the world. But I don't like it. That's what I think about it.
TikTok isn't limited to just that, and I guess that's the part you don't understand.
That's what I was going to say.
You could search exactly. I don't know, cars, and you can get loads of specific, very detailed, you know, information about a car.
It's just another platform.
Like.
That's all it is.
It's just another. It's almost a very good search engine as well. The algorithm on it shows you more of what you want. I was literally looking at my car.
How long? Do videos have a set duration? Like, what I don't understand is why
I think
people use this over like other video platforms. Essentially, I
think it's like it's not very long, but it's obviously longer than a Vine. It's like 90 seconds or something like that.
Right.
But yeah,
I think it's the layout.
I can see it being used as a news source, like a on the fly news source, like kind of Twitter is used now. And yeah, it's not just limited to the dancing. The dancing stuff, kind of that's front and center. But as a platform, I can see it being as popular as Twitter is to get your news from and whatever. Because I found with current events, BBC won't show you everything that is happening there and then. So you go on Twitter and you go delving to see what's actually going on. Maybe Reddit as well. But yeah, I definitely think TikTok is a platform that's good for some things as well. So I wouldn't write it off entirely. But yeah, I appreciate you wouldn't want to delve into it because that is the first impression you get. Is just it's a bunch of kids dancing around, fucking about.
I think
if you're not interested in that, then why would you look at it?
It's the classic.
Yeah. Like, no, it's interesting to hear there's other media on there.
You don't need to engage with it. And I think if you were to skim the surface of what TikTok is, all you're ever going to see is news about it. And usually news about it is negative or like something bad has happened, like China, TikTok, pedophile ring, TikTok. But that's the news you also get for other platforms that you may not be in touch with, like YouTube. Like they've had their scandals, Twitch has had their scandals. That's all you ever see about these platforms. It's just, I think it's the approach to it and the appeal of TikTok maybe is the immediacy of it, like Snapchat was. It's the fact that you just load up an app. The more you use it, the more their algorithm shows you the stuff you want to see. You get stuck in a feed of stuff that you like, essentially. You follow people, and then you get more of that stuff. And it's like your YouTube algorithm feed. It's like it should be recommending stuff to you that is engaging. Obviously, they want to keep you on the app as long as possible, so they'll throw loads of stuff. And the fact that it's like short videos, it's very low bar entry to just like, I want a dose of dopamine, I'm going to load that up and get some funnies out of it.
Speaking of dopamine, and again, I don't feel like this is necessarily a hot take. I'm sorry if you want hot takes on Hat Chat. This isn't necessarily a hot take, but I do worry at how much we are being conditioned to enjoy short bursts of like, you know, things, you know, like, so short form content, especially like looking at like 90 seconds videos and that sort of stuff. And like, I read in chat, somebody was saying about how it's a little bit like Vine. And I remember obviously Vine was, if you don't remember what Vine was, it's essentially a very short form video platform. 6 seconds, did you say? I couldn't actually remember exactly.
I think so.
6. Yeah,
and
it was. Yeah.
A lot of like, essentially comedians like grew on that platform from doing super short form comedy. So like, you know, like, hey, what do you call a thing like this? Bam, like that, like, you know, that was kind of like a format. And so one thing I always thought about that, and I think that people did great out of it, and but as a YouTuber at the time, I was like, man, these people are putting out so much stuff. Are they making any money from, like, they're putting out so much like video content, they're thinking about it, they're writing it. Are they actually, is this a good platform for people to make money from being an entertainer, you know, like and I think that like the shorter form you go, it becomes like eating a bag of crisps, you know, like as in you have one, it's like done. And I think that does risk cheapening both the experience of consuming media, but also the effort and work that goes into it. It becomes a bit like Americans, like daytime television, or like, you know, shows that have like massive breaks in them, or like a break every 5 minutes. I just think that it starts to ruin media a little bit. And basically what I'm saying is, what I originally tried to start saying was like this idea of, I do think we're getting very like dopamine loopy kind of, we're very, very, very conditioned now by like most apps, most things to be like a short, sharp burst of stimulation and that over and over and over and over and over again.
Not just
and I
TikTok.
think that is kind of damaging our mental health a bit. Like I feel like I can't focus on things for long periods of time, you know, very well. And it's just like,
it's definitely changed
I'm not blaming the world necessarily for that, but I do definitely feel that, you know.
Yeah,
like,
I think you're right. I think almost every single app I use on a daily basis is short, sharp dopamine bursts. Reddit is like a summary list of everything. Sometimes don't even click the original article, which is dangerous because you're just reading top line titles, and then the top comment, which is like the thing that everyone upvoted the most. Probably because they didn't read through the rest of the comments. They just saw the top one and added to their upvote. You know, it's an interesting situation to be in where all you're ever really getting is a summary of everything in short form. Particularly with news.
What I like about that though, as in like, if you're given a limit, you have to be creative. You have to be good with that time. And so, although I know obviously the flip side of literally dopamine bursts and stuff, it's a platform where someone has to now find a creative way to make this interesting, rather than like, because I remember watching it at the time thinking, how can I make 6 seconds interesting or good? Like, you know, we're used to making 20-minute videos or 15-minute videos or whatever. Like, these are literally snippets and snaps of moments, really, essentially. And if you can make that really interesting, people come back to your page, then I think that's worth a lot in terms of a creation point of view, not necessarily a existential dopamine fix everywhere kind of view. I can appreciate the platform for what it is, basically.
No, I'm totally. There are upsides to a limitation in format. Like, look at black and white versus colour and stuff like that. Yeah. No, there are.
And also, most of those Viners are now successful YouTubers. Well, the big ones.
I'd be interested to see the conversion, because like
I think it
got really popular.
Yeah, from a consumer's perspective, it's dangerous, right? I think Ross is thinking from the creator's perspective of like when you have a limit, that kind of gives you creativity. Same with like budget limits or with like a set limit. Like you've only got this amount of time on stage. There's 5 stand-up comedians. You've got your slot. Make the most of it. Capture the audience at that moment. But from a consumer perspective, it is, a little dangerous where you just, all you ever get is that snapshot of things. But from a creator's perspective, I think in terms of like, can TikTokers and Viners and stuff like that make a career out of this, of just constantly throwing stuff out? I think you just, again, it's the same. It's not just TV and movies anymore. There's not just two platforms with which to become an artist. It's also, you have to be platform agnostic nowadays, or encompass all of them in some form. Like, you have to be able to transfer and adapt to these things. And I think those that benefit from being platform agnostic and being able to, just dig into TikTok, do some TikTok, will benefit because they'll gain some popularity on that, be able to transfer that to their preferred platform, which is maybe more long form on YouTube. We've done it, tried it, and failed it many times. It's like, Instagram's really like kicking off. We should do that.
Which is the one that we saw in a vlog recently, like our first and only post. Was that Snapchat? Or was that?
That was
Snapchat. Yeah, that was back in.
We're just not very good at like giving it like more than just a couple of goes, because it's really hard.
Yeah, you do have to actually. Yeah, you have to take a lot of time. You have to dedicate yourself to the platform, and if your focus
you have
is
to
elsewhere,
like the platform
as
well.
You know, with Twitch and YouTube, we'd have to very much dedicate ourselves to being social media people as well, which I don't think we necessarily are. Like, it's just, we're just not.
I think it's easier to do it. Again, this sounds like a cop out, but like, it's easier to do it when you're like a solo creator or whatever, because you're not constantly thinking about like, right, what thing can I do that involves everybody, you know, rather than like, because like when you tweet or create content with like one voice, that's the only voice and thoughts you need to worry about. And like, when you make a statement or like make an opinion or something, then you know, you're completely happy with that, because it's like, I know myself. But when you're working with other people and you need to think about more than just like, I'm going to tweet about how fucked England is right now, which is basically what my Twitter is. You know, you it's just a little bit more complicated when you have to have multiple people.
I know what you mean. Like I think social media people who are like really dedicated to their Instagrams and, you know, TikToks and stuff. Yeah, they'll literally have like a persona for it. And if you wanted to literally just be like, well, this is the Hat Films thing where we do crazy shit or whatever, but I want to talk about, you know, politics, which most of the audience will find you know, jarring or, you know, dividing or boring, whichever. I can see what you mean. It's just not appropriate. And why would
that's why Twitter's good for us?
It's hard to read what our audience would want from that kind of feed.
Yeah. Well, it's a difference between like, you know, Lewis's personal Twitter and the Yogscast Twitter. You know, same deal. They had the same problem, I think. In the same with like Rooster Teeth and people like that. You know, like when you have a brand that's like multiple things beneath it, it does make it more tricky, I think.
And usually those brands have a manager or a social media person that is good at it and does it well and that represents the brand. Like Daff, for example, has somehow become the social media guy, and he is quite funny and finds clips of things, and it's his job to make Yogscast Twitter representative of everybody, but also kind of like engaging and funny and not just businessy. I think that's Auntie Donna. You guys know Auntie Donna? It's not just those three, which I didn't know. I watched some behind the scenes of those guys. They have like a team of people that help do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So I'm sure it's not those three that are doing their social medias on a variety of platforms. And they're really successful because they, again, push really hard into lots of different media. They're platform agnostic, and they've done like local Australian shows. They've done a lot of tours on stage, live performance, and I imagine built up a network that way as well. Somehow managed to get their way onto Netflix. So pretty inspirational, but also they have people that we don't have. As Hat Films, we have Kregel Cop, who we you know, really utilize. We burnt both his candles, both ends, and he does a lot of work for us, but I wouldn't consider him, I wouldn't task him with the job of social media on top of everything else that he does. So and we each have our own things to do, and I don't think, like you say, I don't want to then post something representing Hat Films without first checking with you guys first. There's just a whole load of like steps to an organic post. You can't just do an organic Hat Films post. So it's like, well, I'll just put this on Trottomus then if I'm a stupid picture of my dog. It's not really a Hat Films thing. like Murphy. You could do it on Hat Films, I guess, but like, well, it's the people that follow me.
It's just out of context.
Well, it also it confuses the shit out of people a lot of the time, I think, because like, if we did do that, like, say I posted a photo of a lizard and you post a photo of a dog, well, both of you posted photos of your dogs, like, I think they'd be like, is this a nature Twitter? Like, what is this? Like, is this an animal pets like thing? Like, it is like, but equally, I think we're all imagining kind of like the kind of creator that's just like, hey guys, I've just been doing this thing today and it's been really great. You know, like as in a bit like the episode of Always Sunny where Dee is trying to become a creator. You know, like every time the camera's on them, they're like having a mess. They have something to say and they have like something they're trying to do and their journey. And like, I think a lot of times with us, it'd just be like, all right.
I've been sitting on my ass watching fucking Antiques Roadshow. What have you been up to? Like, do you mean what? Like some people. Fair, I mean, fair play to those
TV
people.
Review. That could be a funny segment of all of us watching a different daytime show.
Someone just sold a plant pot for 30 quid. Impressive.
Jeez, maybe we should sell
more
plant
updates
pots
soon.
Man, but like, ultimately, like,
real deal
it's impressive what people can come up with, especially like currently in terms of like just being locked in their houses and stuff. If they're able to come up with interesting stuff, but it's not interesting. It's just them going.
A lot of people aren't locked in their fucking houses. That's the road.
Yeah.
I think a couple of people I follow on Instagram are like, I'm going skiing this weekend when they live like 8 states over from a skiable state, and like, and it's just like.
That boils my piss seeing that stuff. Currently.
We don't realise, but then again, equally, our country is more locked down now than a lot of other countries. So, like, okay, America is a bit of an
people traveling from this country to other countries that annoys me. You'll have, and then they'll probably just say, "Well, I'm an influencer, so it's my job to go to other countries." Or it's your job to be an irresponsible cunt, basically. And I find it so fucking frustrating to see. Why would you broadcast it as well? You'd be like, "Now here's all these nice pictures of me on holiday having a great time." Well, you're stuck inside because that's the law. And I've just gone on a fucking trip and now showing you.
Personally,
what the fuck
not
is that?
seen that. How often have you seen that?
I've seen it a few times on Instagram.
Right.
Also, where it's just like people on holidays and stuff. It's like, why? What?
I would say,
are you on holiday?
I know what you mean. It's irritating when people are flaunting laws and things like that. I think one thing I would say is some people actually do have the capability and wealth, though, to completely make their existence like safe. Like, let's say for example they got a test from somewhere because they probably have access to something, right? Let's say they got a test, they know that they're not infectious, that maybe they know their household's not infectious, and then they go down to their own boat that they then drive off somewhere. Because I know whoever the guy from Dread, the New Zealand Carl Urban was on a fish. He like for ages he was tweeting about like going fishing and going to his friend's island and all that sort of stuff, and that was because they were capable of doing it because of the wealth they had. You know, it's like, oh, my mate owns a house on an island. Yeah. Like, so I know what you're saying, Ross. It is irritating, but at the same time, it's like, well, the problem is if you have the money and the capability, you can live outside this problem, and that sucks.
Yeah, you can, but you have to be a dickhead and show everyone while they're going through hardship. It seems really out of like fucking touch and just kind of disrespectful. It's just like millions of people are locked down, and you're just going having a great time on my private island. It's like, well, you're a fucking cunt, and I hope you trip over and hurt yourself because that's fucked up. I find that just so annoying and just like, why do you want to be that person? Who wants to be that dickhead? But you know, people like Katie Hopkins exist, so people want to be like
there's
that,
worse than her now. There's all sorts of fucking people.
Yeah,
there's like a whole movement in the UK right now of like talk show radio hosts getting traction for being American style assholes. Anyway,
I think it's perspective, right? There's probably a lot of people that like, oh, it's nice to live vicariously through you and doing these things. So whilst I'm in lockdown, I'm sure the majority are pissed off. Don't get me wrong, but I guess that's maybe what they think is like, well, at least I have a good time and I can share that with my audience.
I don't know. I think it's more of a case of they say, well, this is work and therefore I can work because work is allowed. But if your work involves you going to fucking Abu Dhabi for 2 weeks because, you know, some fucker paid for it in Abu Dhabi, is that okay? I don't know, but I guess it is work.
If it's a private jet to a private airport with no other people.
The schools of thought. The schools of thought. I mean, it's fucking complicated, and the schools of thought around it are: if a person can justify, like just like real law, just like creative accounting, just like all the things that are wrong in the world. If you can do it, legally speaking, why shouldn't you be able to do it? Yes, there is this moral quandary of like, you look like a dick, and also ultimately what we're all trying to do by adhering to the rules is like stopping global suffering, right? Like that is essentially the I think the moralistic point of view is like, by going that extra step to not expose other people and like you say, locking yourself down as much as you can, even if the rules say you can do something, maybe don't do it right now, that kind of thing. That is one school of thought of like, I want this fucking lockdown, I want this disease to end so that I can get out. The other school of thought is, well, we don't know when the lockdown's going to end, and this is just, I don't believe this personally, but I know there are people that think like this. We don't know when it's going to end, we don't know when we're going to get vaccination, we don't know a lot of things, but the law, I've read the rules, and the law says I can do this thing I want to do, so I'm going to do it. It's individualistic. It's and obviously that's kind of, I think, a big problem in the world is the individualism we've all been encouraged to express through the need to buy things and to work and to feel purpose and all this other stuff, to succeed, to gain wealth. Like this is all individualistic thinking, which is the Western world is kind of focused on for a long time, and it's one way of doing things. And again, I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong, but like the collective globalist way of thinking is to let's all just do everything we can to minimize the spread of this virus so everybody as a whole can come out of this together. And I think the thing that probably irks you, Ross, is you see these people not acting in that way and acting even when they're adhering to the rules, it's like you dislike them anyway, because you're like, well, okay, you've done it legally speaking, but fuck you know that like these rules aren't foolproof.
It's the fact
and
that
they don't
the
necessarily
title
work.
of their job is influencer, so they're influencing people to break the rules, or influencing people to be reckless, influence them to travel abroad, use a plane, like all of this stuff is which we've been told, don't do that if you don't have to, don't do it if you don't need to, because we're trying to get out of fucking lockdown, and these people are just encouraging it. And there are people in there, and all these comments just saying, oh great, you look amazing, this is incredible, just don't give a fuck. And that just frustrates me. I think it's just because I'm doing the thing that we're supposed to be doing.
It's just frustrating is you voted for a different government as well.
Oh sure.
and like that this is another thing. This is why it's becoming a left and right issue as well, or I think it is anyway, is it's like, man, I'm desperately trying to follow the fucking rules that the government I didn't vote for and who isn't doing a good job are telling us to do. And it gets so frustrating because you're like, oh man, like I am going to follow these fucking rules, but I don't believe that you guys actually have my best interests at heart, or don't give a fuck. And that's what's even more frustrating. But then again, I like Trott says, I don't necessarily, everyone understands the fucking challenges we're facing at the moment, and ultimately, like, you've just got to keep going. You've just got to keep on trucking on, because eventually, hopefully, all the fucking smart people will sort this out.
But in the same breath, you can hardly blame people for breaking the rules, because it's like, when leaders break the rules, you're like, well, no, clearly they didn't give a fuck. Or when you see the fact that, like, oh, well, Tracy down the road did this, that, X, another, whatever, you just suddenly feel empowered to do the same because somebody else has done it. So, totally. It annoys when you see that on a platform where they should be holding some kind of responsibility, but they're just not. And that just
this is going to teach everyone a lot about human behavior. That's kind of the good thing about all of this. And
if we learn from it, it'll be good.
It puts I mean, I think scientists and social modelers and people like that who are looking at, like, how to deal with the next big problems and how to address that are getting really good information out of all of this and understanding, like, oh yeah, shit, British people can't follow the rules. We need to address this differently. We cannot expect the public to self-regulate, because they won't.
You can see how lockdown has forced people to think so externally and be influenced by externals, and it affects you even though you're isolated and cannot see or even interact that much with people outside. It's affecting us more than ever, like what other people's actions are doing. So I noticed that about myself a couple months ago, of like reaching that point of like, I'm just literally hating everybody that isn't doing the rules or doing something even quite right, down to like the individual things, not even just about lockdown, where I was just frustrated on a base level, and I had to do something about it. I think like you have to regain some form of control. So I've tried to go out and read some shit about like how do I improve, myself, my mental faculties to be able to cope with this sort of thing. And I've leaned into Stoicism a little bit, just reading about that, and that's actually helped me quite a bit. It's not like a religion or anything. It's just a practice of like a considered life, where it's like all you have to really just think about everything that you're doing right now is I'm constantly repeating in my mind, someone's done this awful thing, like they turned into my lane while I'm driving, and I'm like, fuck you, you're an asshole, how dare you turn into my lane, I hope something bad happens to you down the road, and you get your comeuppance, and then you're replaying that over and over in your mind. It becomes a feedback loop of like just anger, and you're constantly angry. And Stoicism is all about just trying to be happy and trying to let go of these things, and ultimately all it is reminding yourself that all you really have control of is none of that shit. You couldn't control the fact that guy was going to swerve into it. You don't know what their story was. Like they might not have seen you, and they're probably really apologetic if you were to confront that. Or they might have just, I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? Like,
but later on, you tuned into a feed and that guy was filming himself at the wheel, just going, "Hey, I'm having a great time, just swerving in front of people." You'd suddenly feel a little bit different, like that. Surely, right? That's my example with the Instagram stuff. You're seeing it happen, and that's why that's causing it. I know what you're
even then, like,
getting at, though.
What I'm trying to get at is if you found out that, yes, they were also driving recklessly and they were filming themselves doing that, that action, that sphere of influence is out of your control. You can't do anything about it other than choose to be angry at yourself and project and create a story about why they're an asshole and how they've deeply affected me. Or you can choose to not and just let that go and be a bit happier. And like that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to just like stop that narrative from being crafted in your head, taking over your whole like system for a while, being furious at the world where you don't have an outlet. You just have actions and thoughts. That's the only thing you really can do is your own actions and your own thoughts. If you can just choose to not think about it anymore, then you're going to be a happier person. And it's just about choosing which you want to engage with on the outside world that you feel like you have a level of control over or gives you happiness.
That is a really interesting and evolving concept, I think, in the behavior and the way you think can be fundamentally changed by practicing certain methods and certain ways of thinking. And like I think sometimes when people get pissed off or angry, it is empowering in a certain way, right? When you feel like, I don't know about you, but like sometimes when I'm really pissed off, it almost like it makes you feel stronger, more energized, and like that kind of thing. But ultimately, eventually, like the come down and the hangover from that rage and that anger,
there's a guilt, right?
Is a negative feeling. It's not a good thing. And I think, like you say, expanding this further about things like mindful meditation and self awareness and things like that, like all of these things, if you practice them and
it sounds a little
physiological
zen-y.
Changes that can change. So within 8 weeks of practicing effective meditation, physical or physiological or chemical changes can be measured within the brain, right? So you have an impact on your body, just like going to the gym to lift weights to get bigger. You can have an impact on your mind and the way you process your world, and that is really interesting. And
it's a trained skill. It really is.
And it's something we all need to learn, because I think that technology is causing us to become less capable of processing our world. Because
and more reactive.
Whilst our information like highways are getting faster and faster, we're not becoming any more capable of dealing with it. So I think that, training the way you think and that sort of thing is going to be a more and more important skill.
Yeah,
I think it's much easier to do something like that when it doesn't affect you. Like technically, someone going on holiday, whatever, doesn't affect me directly, but in a way it does, because of this kind of, right now we're all in the same boat, right? So when you see someone do something reckless, or people are crowding together, whatever, you're like, well, that affects me now. Normally, if somebody's just kind of being a dick up the road, maybe if they didn't cut me off directly or whatever, but like that might not affect me, and maybe it would, but you know what I mean? As in, like, when you see someone do this stuff, you're thinking, fuck, I'm going to get affected by this. And that's why I'm annoyed. Whereas, and that's why it's so hard to get rid of, as in to just go, it doesn't affect me, it's fine. Whereas anything anyone does now will be judged and is being judged, because we're all in the same fucking boat. If you keep rocking it, that dickhead's just rocking it, you're like, mate, fuck off. You're a prick. Stop rocking the fucking boat. We're all in this.
Yeah,
so that's why it's so hard to let go, I think, because you always bring it back to yourself, and you think, well, fuck, I'm screwed because of some other fucker, but I made sacrifices.
It's about being the better person, and you have made sacrifices, and I get that, and it's like, it's frustrating because you're like, why should I cripple myself when another person is not doing that? Like, why should I have negative impacts on me when that person doesn't feel it? And I think in a way, the choice you have to make is to be the better person and take on that weight as a good thing, as in like, I wouldn't do that. I'm better, or I'm trying what I feel is better for everybody. I'm trying to do that, and I take pride and energy and all those things from that, I guess. But it's a big step, and it's not easy. It's hard.
As this whole this started, it just ramps up the severity of like seeing those things. You see those things that you think, well, at this stage, surely everyone gets the point. But unfortunately, that's just it's not the reality. So I mean, eventually, I ignore those people, block them, don't follow their thing, don't see their stuff, and that's fine. But it's still, that instant of fuck, that boils my piss. It's just frustrating. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who was going through the same thing when they're seeing other people do the same shit. Or one of their friends like, oh, we're just going to a party, mate. Come on then, come to the party. It doesn't matter. Fuck COVID, who cares? And it's like, well, fuck. Like, what can you do?
That's the thing. Like, unfortunately, these things are cementing in your mind. And even when you're not actively reading or looking at these things as they're happening, you're replaying them over and over again in your head. And narratives are being formed in your mind about these guys must be assholes. They fuck them. How dare they do this to us and make this whole situation worse? But you're spending your time ultimately processing that all the fucking time, and it's not good for you. So that's what I found about myself. Also, is like I just let feelings run away from me. Like in the past, I haven't actively really tried to stop negative emotions. I just let them play out sometimes when you're just like boiling over or whatever. But I think there is a benefit to processing that and trying to stop beyond the initial impression. This is what is also talked about a lot. You have an initial reaction to things, and I think that's unavoidable. Something happens to you, like a car comes at you, and you can't help but like have a huge rush of adrenaline and feel a certain emotion when that happens. It's how you deal with the thoughts after when you have control again. To how it affects you beyond that. Like if you know that you can step in and kind of stop yourself from thinking, why did that car just drive at me? They must have been driving at a reckless speed. I can't believe they didn't see me. All those thoughts are thoughts that you have control over and that you could stop if you wanted to, other than, just saying like, that was out of my control. My actions and thoughts that I have now are the things that I have control over, and therefore I can just allow myself to. What would saying something do? I can ask myself that question. What would me shouting at that person achieve? Is it going to be a benefit or detriment? Or is doing nothing about it going to make it any worse? Is another question you can ask as well.
They could go up the road and crash into someone. You're like, oh fuck, I just quietly kept it to myself. I mean, like it's hard.
There is this downside to that, like that life, definitely. And I see, like sometimes I'm naturally a little bit like that, Trott. In the like, I'll be like, well, what is me shouting or doing this thing going to actually do to change that person's behavior? Am I just participating in the same fucking things they're caught up in by engaging? But I think the downside to it is it doesn't make you a naturally very sometimes people will do things and then afterwards you're like, fuck, no, I was totally in the right there, but I naturally just went, oh, all right, mate, yeah, sorry, I probably don't understand what's going on.
I guess in this specific example, it's hard to say because you're in a car, like you can't say anything to someone specific.
What I'm trying to say is...
But I know what you mean, as in, if someone was kicking a puppy in the street, I would
there
fucking
are upsides and downsides to all thinking. Like, this is the problem. Like, there is upsides and downsides to all ways of thinking.
I think what I'm trying to say is... As long as you're asking yourself that question and how you choose to respond to it is thought of rather than engaging entirely on instinct and emotion. Don't let the emotion drive you. Let your reasoned thought drive you. Like if you choose to say, no, this is bad, and me stepping in and telling that person something is going to benefit and make me feel better and make other people be safer, then absolutely. Like, I'm not saying stop that. I'm just saying, like, take a moment to let the initial impression cast your judgment on it and then make a reasoned response. Often you don't have time. I get it. And sometimes you just have to let things play out and you have no control over it. But if there are times, like, that's all it is just about training yourself to be a little bit
I think a good
less
example and
caught up in the
probably
wind.
a good way to train yourself is seeing just when you scroll through Twitter and you see someone write something fucking disgusting or racist or whatever, like, you know that what you say to them won't get through to them. So you know that there's probably no point in saying something, but you fucking want to. But I know what you mean. Like, there's plenty of times where I've seen something, I'm going to fucking say something to this asshole. But, like, you just leave it, ignore it, don't engage. You know that's what fuels that type of thing.
Yeah.
And, it won't make me feel better afterwards, necessarily. It'll just be like, that's fueling a fire. And everything's like, it's better to just look at it, go, fuck, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Don't look at it again.
We're not here to change the world. I think what's important is I need to get control of myself first. I don't think I'm a rationed, reasonable adult that knows the right thing about everything. So what I want to do before I think that I can influence and change people is to be good myself first. And if I'm in control of my emotions a little bit better, I'm not constantly beating myself up by telling myself how fucking awful everyone else is. And being just wrapped up in my own emotions all the fucking time, I feel like I could be a better contribution to society and be a bit more reasoned. That's all. I only want to do that thing first. I'm not saying like this is the only thing you should ever do, is stop involving yourself emotionally and everything. All it is the first thing I want to tackle of myself is getting so wrapped up in emotions and then replaying that same event in my head over and over again and getting angrier and angrier about the whole thing. It's just a stepping stone. I'm not saying this is a fix, but it's what I've been reading about recently, and it has been helping me. It really does. Like, I get really angry and frustrated at a lot of things. Sometimes I just wake up grumpy, you know? And anyone that does anything...
Sorry, when you say that, it's so strange, because I don't know if I've ever really seen you angry.
That's,
in, like,
I internalize
11
it
years.
all.
It's so interesting that I've never seen you blow up or get angry at something. You've kind of just been like very like this. Yeah, you'll manage the situation. Like, you're quite measured.
I'm measured externally, like from someone watching me, but the amount of shit that goes on in my brain that I just filter and I don't show it is not healthy for me. Like, I think about things that are awful, you know, and you replay them over and over again in your brain, and you get angry and angry, and then you make, like, it's a passive, like, subconscious judgment of people. Those things, those actions that have hurt me over time, it's like, when I see you next, I've got all that shit and that vitriol that I've built up in my head, a story that I've created about you that not even true. It's just I've allowed these stories and these emotions to run away from me, and I've built this picture that's untrue about you. So I'm just trying to stop that. Yeah. You know,
is it like a situation where you have like an argument, a hypothetical argument with a situation that you don't know how to address in real life. So when you have that hypothetical argument, you always think of the worst possible scenario, and you go, oh god, I wouldn't want to address that because that sounds awful. Like, but until you do address those things, sometimes that's all it takes is to talk to somebody or whatever the situation that you're having.
And
that's more often you're like, oh fuck, I was overblowing it. But like, sometimes it's hard to do that. But yeah, I know what you mean.
It really is. Like, it's so hard. Like, I've realized just how, I think even just thinking about this and trying to catch yourself in those moments, you realize, fuck me, I can't believe I'm allowing myself to just like really dig in, and like you sometimes feed off that anger, right? Where it's just like, yeah, fuck you for driving in my lane. You're an asshole. I bet they're like this all the fucking time. I hope something swerves into them down the road, and like I want to see that. I'm gonna like catch up to them a little bit and see if they do anything. Like, you know, all that shit plays out in your head, and you just gotta like
that's the same facility that allows you to kill people.
What?
Like, as in, it is.
If it runs away,
You're talking about the spectrum of the human mind. Just the willingness and capability to hate, and the feeling of wanting to cause harm to somebody. Like, you know, we've got to remember, like, we've been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and for a long period of time, we would kill strangers. We would do all that sort of shit. And so there are still parts of our mind that are perfectly capable of feeding the side of you that makes it socially possible to hurt people and to do harm and to kill people. Like,
I can see
that's
how
what it
like
comes from.
Conditioning perhaps would do that. I think there is definitely a barrier between internalizing those thoughts and letting them run away and like just enjoying, like imagining it rather than doing, because I think that there's a big difference there between thinking about it and like, if I was to actually see it happen, obviously I'd be like, oh my fucking God, I can't believe that happened, and there'd be guilt, like anger. You know, you have an argument with someone and afterwards you feel that guilt. It's the same thing, right? Whereas like, oh, I can't believe I actually thought that. That's kind of a bit gross.
It's just spectrums, though, isn't it? It's all spectrums. Like, it's a scale. Like, yes, day to day, the anger and dislike and those feelings that you feel for a person that, like you say, road rage scenarios and things like that.
I think that's the easiest to relate to.
They aren't the actions that make you want to hurt somebody, but you know, it's part of the spectrum
to make me
of
feel
that
better.
Journey towards the capability to do things. Like,
I guess I've never had evidence of that myself. I don't think I've ever run away with those thoughts and acted upon them personally.
No, I'm not saying you will. I'm saying that like that is part of the facility in the mind to allow you to be capable of those things. If you took it down to its purest form, the same could be said for like love and empathy and care, and in the opposite direction. Like they are concepts that we need to be familiar with. I think for me, like this year has actually more been about becoming more emotional for me personally, and trying to be more happy and grateful, and you know, all those sort of things that have helped a lot, like appreciating the little things, appreciating.
Are you actively trying to do that? Like, I should be happy, right? Are you thinking that yourself?
I think for a long time I didn't really embrace my emotions or want to deal with them because they haven't been particularly useful to me in the past, and like, you know, I felt that just stopping that and blocking those things out and stuff and not tackling those problems and those feelings was a useful, rational thing to do, and it has been. I mean, like, I still think it's true that the less you have to deal with powerful emotions, the more efficient and effective you can be within our Western modern world. Like, I still think that is capable, because it just means you're less likely to fall victim to crippling stress, crippling mental health problems if you're more mentally resilient. And I feel that being mentally resilient, part of the main techniques for that are blocking out emotions, the same way that you would condition a soldier to not feel so much about killing people, the same way you would condition as a doctor or a nurse that seeing people die every day. By disengaging with those feelings, it can help. However, it does also strip you of the other end of the spectrum. Yes, it allows you to become more capable of dealing with stress and bad things, but it also makes, I think, in my experience, the feeling of enjoying things and liking things and loving things, and you know, all those feelings also go out the door if you narrow that hole for emotions to go through. So by becoming more vulnerable and becoming more appreciative and happy and of the things around you, the simple things in your life that are actually okay, then it builds that platform, like we were saying earlier, about that journey to better mental health, and also you just eventually stop feeling so fucking bad because your mind is learning that things aren't so fucking bad, and just by, because a lot of the times you pick up this ambient shit, you know, this ambient feeling around you from your exact surroundings, from the things you see, the things you read, the things you hear. You pick up a lot of noise, and I think largely that then has this negative feeling, this heavy blanket over your mind, over your psyche, and the way you perceive things, that makes things worse. And so if you can take that blanket off, make that ambience quiet down, and start to pull the good things from your life and make those louder, they will eventually help your mind feel as though you're on better.
Basically on the same lines as what I've been reading about. Ultimately, you're just considering your actions a bit more and realizing that I'm dipping more into like detachment than I am attachment, and I'm realizing that I need to balance it a bit more. There's like, I think if everything boils down to like an XY coordinate, right? And Stoicism is very similar. It's like you just need to reach that middle point every time. It's like, as much as we're talking about anger and shit like that, the other is true, where you can be blinded by love and like affection and stuff like that, where again, you're running away with your feelings and making thoughts and opinions about things because you're over the moon about something, and you got to bring that back to reality a little bit to be like, you can be manipulated by that as much as you can anger. So yeah, it's all about having enough of both things and being a reasoned good person that's responsible and a contribution to everyone else around you in a good way, and not let any of it get to you too much. That's ultimately all it's about. And it takes work. Like, no one really wants to it'd rather be told how to live and act. A lot easier, and it's a lot easier to let your emotions run away with you because it feels good. But for me, I've realized that I've let them run away for too long, and I think I've slowly become more and more jaded and negative over the years, and something needs to be done about it. Otherwise, I'm just not happy all the time. My base medium happiness is lower than it could be, I think. I'm recognizing that now and doing something about it, which I think is a good thing. Nothing wrong with
it. It's nice to work on yourself and to feel, hopefully, like you're progressing in the right direction, even if sometimes the world outside doesn't feel like it is.
Yeah.
I guess.
But, hopefully this helps somebody. Who knows? Just be a bit reflective. There's nothing wrong with being a bit reflective on, like, how have I been recently? And am I happy? And if not, is there something I can do about it? Do I want to? Am I ready yet? Fuck. At least you're thinking about it. That's all that matters.
It's part
if we can't control this fucking horrible shit that's going on, you can't control COVID unless you're a scientist or an NHS worker actually delivering a vaccine, or in the army helping. If you can't do any of those things physically, you're not in that field, then maybe just try and be a better person for yourself. That could be something you can work on.
Just for you. Like, if anything else, just
if you're stuck
selfish
with yourself, like, it's about
be selfish, be a good person.
Well, yeah, ultimately,
that's essentially it, isn't it? Like, what we're saying, like,
to a point. If you're not good within yourself, you're not going to be very good for other people.
Like RuPaul says.
If you can't love yourself,
how the hell are you going to love anyone else?
That's a good point. It's a great point. But also, like the holiday analogy, where it's like, just get away from it all. Just go on holiday. And, like, all your stresses and stuff will go away. It's like, no, I still have to go on holiday with me. So you have to fix that first. That turned into a therapy
EasyJet
session.
doesn't charge you for that baggage.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Nice.
They could, though.
Nice.
Like,
they
how
could.
depressed are you?
They would try if they could. If they were able
looks
to,
like you're going to really
fucking
benefit from this holiday with your mental health. We're actually going to have to charge you for the extra bits of mental health.
This is really going to rejuvenate you. Here's our rejuvenation package.
That guy in the back, he's not very miserable at all. So this is only going to bump his happiness by like 10, 15%. So that's actually below the taxable feeling rate.
And thanks for all that data you've given social media. We know exactly how you're feeling right now, so we can charge accordingly.
Legit. What an interesting industry that would be, the feeling. Well, because also, I think going into more sort of future tech kind of hopes and dreams again here, I honestly think that we could get to the point where we have like a pacemaker that can help control our mood. Because, I mean, this is based on current theories of what... Yeah. Like a chip that sits on your brain that goes, oh, he's not producing enough of this serotonin, or he's not producing enough of this particular hormone to feel stable. Because, like, I mean, this is based on the prevailing idea that depression and anxiety and things like that are largely caused by a lack of a certain neurotransmitter or neuroreceptor within the brain. That's basically based on that. But the idea that we could, because I think a lot of the time it's physiology and it's your biology and your genetics which maybe give you a shit brain setup, a shit biochemistry setup, like, because some people are more resilient and some people are less resilient to mental stress. So if you could give everyone this baseline, then it really is all about just that your thinking and how it works and things. I mean, you could argue that yes, there is an effect on the brain physiologically from just doing therapy, but I think this would help a lot of people, those who are truly like really crippled, because there is a spectrum of mental health as well. Like you can have one person that feels low and shit and unmotivated, and then you can have a person who's in physical pain because of their mental health problems. So like it'd be great to get to that position where we can all have our
imagine if that'd be amazing, because if a doctor could just load up your setup on their phone or something. Okay, well let's just plug into see. Okay, all right.
So cool.
He's a bit low or whatever. Like that'd be fucking amazing.
There is the dystopic part.
That is the future of medicine, not necessarily chips. Because I mean, the future again after that would be you wouldn't need a chip in your brain. There'd be some form of scanner that could tell that and then influence it wirelessly. Would be the next sort of step.
I think it should be with healthcare professionals like NHS. It should be them that choose to do it, because there is that dystopic thing of like private companies been charging for happiness and also influence on like, we're going to make you like our product a little better.
Yeah, we're gonna modify your heart so it beats the optimum speed at this time or whatever, and maybe fucking
going to make you have a huge erection every time you go on Facebook.
Yeah.
Woo!
Jesus, they fucked me up. My God, I've got an instant erection from Facebook specifically. Weird.
It's every time on Facebook. I need to keep Facebook open for this one, love, if you don't mind. It's the only way I can keep up.
The portal needs to see.
Ad for a steamer, a vegetable steamer. Interesting. Oh, I've got an erection.
Shall we?
Have you guys seen the film Gattaca?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I have.
I watched it ages ago, but it's like somebody said this is similar. Like, I mean, in a way, it's also a bit like what's the one with the gun kata in it? They also have like emotion control by medicine.
Equilibrium.
Yeah. I think those are kind of, equilibrium. Those are examples of where it could go wrong. I think there is a lot.
Emotion is not allowed. It's illegal.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I mean, like I've been on antidepressants before, and they have some huge downsides. But one of the things they do allow you to do is to like create a baseline or like a stepping stone.
It's like a
for you to
reset, isn't it?
To work on. Yeah, like it just stops like the rolling, horrible, like just complete feelings of like anxiety and dread that just like pulse through you. It stops that, so you can then like build upon that shelf.
That's down to you though, right? So that bit.
Exactly. Like there is elements of this, and like I know it's really, really hard when you have anxiety and when you have depression to like kick out of it, and it's not a good thing to say, but ultimately like it may go one of two ways in the end. You will either get better or you will not, and choosing to just fucking rage against the misery and the feelings of horror and death that you feel every day is one of the steps to achieving that, because it
depends on the individual. That choice can be extremely hard, like insurmountably hard.
Totally, and like we cannot under appreciate how like the strength of will that's required for that, and the social surrounding, like it is obviously hugely complicated. But like something before I took antidepressants, I was like, oh man, this is gonna just solve my problems, or this is gonna make me feel good, like as in like I can't wait to feel like good again, like happy, and it doesn't do that. It just sort of takes away most of the shit, the ambient shit,
takes the edge off,
hurting you, and makes you go like, right, okay, I finally got a little bit of peace.
Again, that's dependent on the tablet you take, I guess.
Why I'm like this. Yeah,
I imagine there's different results.
It is important to remember to like, it's a fucking slog, and some people I think do have a disadvantage, just like people who are better looking statistically get better jobs.
I have it tough though. Like being this good looking comes with its own downsides, because there's a lot of expectancy to just be best at everything, and I'm like, I can't keep accepting all these healthcare products from these massive companies, because it's not fair on the other brands, is it? So I get what you mean. I know entirely in that respect.
But I think it is worth accepting sometimes that some people don't have to deal with mental health as much as others, and fucking lucky them. I think there is physiological differences. I honestly do. Like I think that's something that we all need
dealt
to
a bad hand. You roll bad stats.
Yeah, exactly. And it's gonna, to make the life you want, it's gonna be really hard, and sometimes harder than other people's. I guess that's fucking horrible and a bitch to deal with. But like,
actions and thoughts, everybody. Only thing you can control. I recommend that if you're struggling, just to remind yourself that there's so much more that's out of your control that is actually affecting you on a day-to-day basis. And if you just separate those two things a little bit and realize that I can be angry at this all the time, or I can choose to take control of what I think and how I act, you might feel a little better for it. It might work for you. It worked for me. I don't know. I'm not a therapist or anything. But
also, I think with a lot of mental like CBT kind of style processes, like you're talking about, and like with meditation as well, mindful meditation, it's something that takes like a couple of months to actually start having a change, to have an effect. So if it doesn't do it for you the first couple times, just keep trying. And
you've been living with this for years. It's been deeply ingrained for a long time. It's not going to go away. Much like working out, it fucking sucks to begin with. And it changes the mindset when you realize that, oh, fuck, no, I'm actually getting fitter. It feels good. It takes a while for that good feelings to actually come in. So you got to stick with it.
The months of wanting to throw up every time you do exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Well, anyway, any funny news to round us off? There's a couple.
There's a few. There's some involve aliens, which is a great topic we've started to adopt here at Hatch Hint.
Yeah.
UFOs and aliens, of course.
Yes.
Which one?
Is that one you found, Smith?
No, I found
about
this
the 2019
one.
Well, talk about the UFO situation first, because you have some information you want to share about that. Let's get a UFO update over to Alex Smith for the update.
There's something going on in the skies above our planet. We're not entirely sure. I'm not.
There's a sky outside our planet. Big news.
There's a sky above us. No, but I mean, my take on it is there's something going on, stuff going on up there using some form of technology, advanced, be it more advanced than ours by the looks of things. Where that's coming from, I wouldn't be able to say. I'm not going to say it's aliens from another planet. I'm not going to say it's not another government or another country with a technology that others haven't found yet.
I heard the word aliens, and I'm sticking. I'm thinking about aliens now.
I want that to be true, so I'm going to stick with that.
I think it has to be aliens.
It's just as exciting, but the things that people. So in 2019, another U.S. Navy pilot or team of pilots saw more crazy shit in the sea, and more shit coming out of the sea, a triangle to be specific, a bit like the chocolate triangle from Quality Street. So it's got rounded edges, or like
my favorite,
or like a pool triangle, a snooker triangle.
They know how to win us over, don't they?
So rounded.
How big? What scale are we thinking?
Yeah,
I'm not sure actually. They didn't mention in what I was reading the size of it, but at least the same size as a jet or thereabouts. And it came up out of the sea, which loads of the fucking same reports from other military pilots, other aviation people, other people on ships and boats, people from all walks of life have seen shit come out of the sea with these bright lights and then go off up into the sky. Now, first of all, even with existing technology, that's hard. We don't have many submarine planes for a reason. Put it that way. And so that in itself is exciting and interesting.
The change in density alone, going from sea to air.
The thing that they always, currently talking about the last few years have been very hype is transmedium transportation. So that one of the 3 videos released a couple of years back showed, I think, off the coast of South America, some small drone-like object go from the sea up into the sky, fly around a bit, and then back into the sea again. And at no point did speed or resistance seem to change. So, for example, going through the sea and going through the air, there was no change in speed. It wasn't like it hit the sea; it simply cut into the sea, came out, cut into the air with no. Now. The kind of things that could make this possible are things like space and time and gravity distortion, like changing, how would something ignore the qualities of matter, essentially? This is a different one. This is from the such high quality. This is from one of.
Is it the Tic Tac or is this something else?
This is a Tic Tac.
No,
we spoke about the Tic Tacs in the previous podcast.
This is one of 3 they've released. Oh, is this a Tic Tac? Okay, is this part of is it all the videos together?
I think so.
But anyway, in 2019, another pilot saw something. They took a very clear photo, which was then attached to a report that went round the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Department of the Pentagon, which is a department that works on working out what the fuck pilots are seeing when they see things. They don't necessarily believe there are aliens. They don't anything like that. They're just looking at weather balloons and satellites and things that are falling through the sky or in the sky. But
I'm actually more impressed with the tracking technology they use.
It's insane.
Than the
pilots have.
because
it's
that
higher
would be very
res
useful
than this.
in After Effects.
The originals are higher res than this, and this is also, I think, a slightly older piece of camera tech as well. So, because some of the ones that got released from 2014. So if you can imagine the advancements in cutting edge military camera technology in 8 years, just looking at the consumer market, you can imagine how much better it would be. Oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Is it? No, might be this one.
We've now got a shot above the sea, I think, and we're now seeing an object just cleanly
glide across the screen. You can see him trying to track it. Yeah, he's holding down a button to do like that.
There you go. So
then you got a lock on, and then the fucking
the speed of it is ridiculous.
Does it track that? That's so impressive. That technology is
like a white dot on a black background.
No, I mean like, I mean, it's in a jet though.
But at that speed, though.
Yeah, it's on a gimbal.
Super impressive.
It's on a gimbal. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's insane. It's an incredible technology that's really quite amazing.
We're just more impressed by the camera. I really want to get the camera now. We're working on that technology.
There's some awesome. I regularly consider buying, well, not buying, but regularly look at like fucking thermal cameras for like fucking military, milsim, airsoft, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can get slightly cheaper ones now, but like the ones that are really good are still quite expensive.
Of course,
it's the fact
military grade.
They saw this same behavior of transportation or whatever coming up into the sky, disappearing, and it goes around. And anyway, what's happened now is there was a funding bill. I still don't know if it's been approved or not, but the funding bill that was largely about giving Americans money to help with COVID, like financial impact. Within that was another subsection that basically asked the Pentagon to prepare a report on its stance and its understanding of what they're seeing largely with these unidentified aerial phenomena, which should be out, it says, within 180 days. So sometime later this year.
Wow.
Now, I mean, obviously that's exciting because they might release like even more crazy footage and it really will depend which way they want to steer the public in terms of what it is, what they want people to think it is, all that sort of shit. But it could be that we get a load of really interesting more information about new technology and things. Personally, I don't think we will, because if it is foreign technology or advanced American technology that they're not telling their pilots about, you don't want that in the public sphere. Like the Blackbird, famously the Blackbird spy plane operated, and I think from the 60s until the 90s without anyone knowing about it. And that's because it could fly over countries at like Mach 2, Mach 3, outrun all of their missile defenses. So they would regularly outrun missile defenses in these jets. So what they would do, they'd be flying along at fucking, 50,000, 70,000 feet, really, really high up. And they would see like, oh yeah, somebody's launched a missile at us. All right, let's just accelerate. And they just fucking put the throttle on, and before they know it, they're on 3 continents away. So like the advantage of having and keeping that technology secret is huge, obviously. So for me, I don't know what they're going to release. And also the alternative is, if it's not government technology that an enemy or we have, then it'll either be alien, which, telling people that there are aliens coming to the world is quite a big step in terms of our view of ourselves and our world. We're just we
can barely handle elections.
Not that important, guys. And it's important to say that people like Brian Cox still believe that we may be the only planet in our galaxy with life on it. Like people as eminent as him, who have studied this their whole life
in our galaxy,
and are very within our but then our galaxy is gigantic, Trott.
Like our galaxy, it's enormous.
The other
it's pretty big.
Theory is transdimensional or multidimensional. So it may be us or someone like us from an alternative reality that has come here with a different history, a different reality in general. The rules might be different there. Physics might not work the same. All these kind of like really crazy concepts that science is just sort of starting to play with.
I think it's a multidimensional being of an alternative dimension to Earth, where and hold on to this, just stay with me for a second. Quality Street, right? Okay, so the triangle was a big deal back in the day. Alternative future, like Fallout New Vegas kind of thing, where technology is still retro. Quality Street actually become a mega corporation. and they actually do invest in the army and stuff like that. But the triangle is still a big staple, so they start working on experimental tech. NASA doesn't even exist. It's quality tech, quality space. It's not quality street anymore. It's quality. It's quality highway, then quality city, then quality country, quality United, quality world, galactic, now quality space. And their triangle has finally bridged the dimensional gap, and that hazelnut truffly goodness is bridging all the dimensions together.
And that's why they put it on a dollar bill.
And that's why they put on, and that's them fucking coming through. They see all. It's the quality street triangle.
It's as good a theory as any, Trott. Honestly, it's like the old thing about there's a toaster orbiting the planet that we can't see, but I believe in it. You know, like as in the whole religion thing.
And if you can't disprove it, it's true.
Like,
what's this?
So I mean, Trott,
you
like
put
infinite universe.
An article here that says aliens struck a deal with Donald Trump. What's that?
Aliens have not struck a deal with Donald Trump. I think if anything, right, if anything at all, either disproves, it proves one of two things. It either proves that aliens don't exist, and no one is here to contact our presidents and things like that. No one's here.
Or because he's not said anything
which
about
I think is a much more likely scenario, is things like this are not handled by the president. I think that, like, with the risk of
handled
going
by
like,
aliens.
with this
it's
shit,
said in this article.
Civil servants. So there are tons of civil servants in all levels of most governments in the world, and they would be perfectly capable of running long-term, we're talking 50 years long, sort of documentations of things like this, and not giving it to every president that comes in and leaves every 8 years. All right, because these kind of things could, because I mean obviously Roswell and all this other shit happened like in the 50s, I think Roswell was. So like again, not saying any of this is real. I'm just saying that like apply what we know, rational ideas to what we have been given, and see what you can do with it. Again, like
quality
part
science.
of my love for this and interest of this comes from my love of sci-fi, my want for there to be more out there that we do not know, my want for there to be more frontiers that we haven't yet crossed. Like this is all coming from a place that I want to be real. So of course you can take it tongue in cheek. You can take it however you like. Like personally, I think that there is enough accounts now and enough people in professional, trusting positions that you can sort of go, well, something's happening. Something is happening. I don't know what it is. I'd love to know because technology is cool and interesting.
This story is literally just one paragraph, by the way.
I know.
It's literally one paragraph that just says
It goes on to
the
say
former head of Israel's space gone.
I saw that. Like after that sentence, essentially, it was like the former Israeli something. It says, "Mother has to tattoo one of the twins to tell them apart." I'm like, how's this tie in with the alien thing?
That's the second story. A woman who's struggling to tell her twins apart has one
they
tattooed.
Tattooed one of the twins.
I
thought she was, had got a tattoo of a twin, and I'm like, well, if she can't tell them apart, what good's a tattoo? Does it have like a graph of distinguishing
eyes are
marks?
further apart.
Just look at his eyes. Look at the creepy one's eyes.
It probably is written by a bot, actually. You're right. That article was probably...
Oh my God. The reason it was because one of the sons was born with a condition that requires him to be injected once a week. So the mother decided to tattoo him so he could be make sure that was the right baby.
Inject
so she
here.
took the step after her partner's mother accidentally injected the wrong baby.
Oh my God.
Fucking
hell. My God.
Why tattoo them when you can just get like a dry marker and just put a cross on one of the head of the one that you need to vaccinate?
This one.
I've marked
Wait, hold on. Did I put a cross on the one I do need to vaccinate or not? Don't need to vaccinate?
Shit. Let's write some more on the head.
You want some more insulin, don't you?
See which one reacts.
God.
Well,
come on, baby David.
Yeah.
Want some insulin?
If you're a twin and you have been tattooed because your mum can't tell you apart, write in to hatchat@hat-films.com. Also, if you have a really good fingal, much like Big Tony did for this one, then also send it to the same email. And I also want to give a big thanks to our Patreon supporters who ultimately, thanks to non-sponsorship so far, keeping this Hat Chat alive. It's allowing us to continue to say, yes, this is worth us doing every couple of weeks instead of streaming, instead of doing a video. Again, patreon.com/hatfilms. Thanks to all of you. You are credited at the end of our YouTube video. So if you want to see our faces in the articles, I don't know why you would, but there is a Hat Chat podcast. Just search for that on YouTube. You should come up with our channel. And yeah, enjoy. You're credited at the end of that video. So here we go. To end our first Hat Chat of 2021, any final single words or summaries that you'd like to leave?
All I would say is,
with?
if anyone has any other funny stories they see and they want us to talk about, feel free to send it to the same email, or other topics they want us to cover, because it's always useful and always great to
help
spark
us
off
source
some ideas.
stuff.
So
yeah, it's only us.
Feel free to use that email.
Gathering this stuff, so often just Ross finding funny news. So help him out. Send an email across if it's funny.
And Trott, if you're looking for some last words before the end of this podcast, started with David Bowie, and I think we can end with it.
What does
Trott,
he say?
there's a starman waiting in the sky, and he'd like to come and meet us. All right,
yes,
but he thinks he'll blow our mind. There's a lot of truth to that.
David Bowie was ahead of his time, so we'll leave you with that thought.
Maybe he is that starman today.
Holy shit. My God. Anyway, we'll leave you with that. And Big Tony, as he plays us out. Goodbye.
Big Tony.